Like, I'm a childhood wrestling fan, even though I don't look like that. I don't know what a wrestling fan is supposed to look like, but apparently I don't look like one. And I'm like, good. Well, let me, go out there and shatter people's perceptions. That's what I've done my entire career. I work really
Mhm.
hard. Like, just because I come out to Ariana Grande and I wear pink doesn't mean I'm not going to kick your ass. I will.
Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to another edition of Unpopular Review interview series. I am your host, Caden, and today I am joined by wrestler Mariah May. Welcome. How are you?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm doing good. So let's start this out. Let's talk about what you've been doing recently. So the last few weeks, what have you been up to a little bit?
So in the UK, gyms have just opened back up. So for me, I've just been like going hard in the gym, trying to get ready because in a couple of months, wrestling will be back. Fingers crossed, nothing changes, but wrestling will be back. So for me, I've just been like just spending all my time in the gym trying to get ready. I also do like a lot of Twitch, which is like a live streaming app. It's a bit like YouTube, and I also do YouTube. So I've been keeping up with all of that still because I did that a lot in lockdown. But the past couple of weeks specifically, I've just been trying to prepare myself to get back in the ring.
So let's kind of go back to the beginning where this all started. So did you do any athletics in high school?
Yeah, so mainly I did track and field. That was kind of my sport. But I kind of did a bit of everything, to be honest with you. Like I did netball, hockey, everything. Like at my school, they did every sport. So I did a lot of everything, but mainly my sport was track and field, which definitely helps with wrestling in terms of just the discipline that it takes and having that at a young age. And always growing up with that when it comes to wrestling and the training and the sacrifice and just, the consistency of it, I think really helped just because I've kind of been brought up that way. But yeah, track and field was my sport.
So in track and field, what events did you do?
So I did long distance and I did relay. And it was funny because I hated long distance. I just was good at it. So like when we were younger, they just make you do everything.
Yeah.
And I just excelled at it. And I got put on all the teams. And then as I got older, I loved it. But like when I first started, it was like, no, like I don't want to do it. It's so long. And then once I started training and improving and you kind of see that growth and it gets easier too, because you're not out of breath, and you really like learn how to control your breathing and it becomes really fun. So long distance was my main one. I also did the relay for them, but long distance.
So then how did you decide you wanted to become a wrestler? Was it like a childhood thing or was there a singular moment that you kind of realized that's what you wanted to do?
It was definitely a childhood dream. And then I kind of feel like everyone thinks you're going to grow out of it. And I do think a part of me kind of just thought, it's not going to happen, especially like 5-6 years ago in the UK, like what, like WWE's in America, like, and I would Google my favorite wrestlers and see how they did, and they were all American. And so I was like, oh, how do I get to these places? Like, do I move to America? And like, to get a visa, and like how to get a visa, we have to have a job, it was all so complicated to like 16-year-old Mariah. And so I was like, okay, I don't think this is going to work. I did theatre as well as track and field, and I was also pretty academic. So I had a lot of options, but I couldn't let it go. Like I really wanted to do it. And then I remember, there's a lot of matches from my childhood, but there was a match, I think Sasha versus Becky in NXT, and I just watched it and I just cried the whole time. And I was like, I want to do this. I can do this. And Becky Lynch is obviously Irish. So I was like, hold on a minute. Like, if she can do it, then I can do it. And so I think it's not one match in particular, but it was kind of that time period where I was just like, I just committed to it. And I was like, I'm going to do this. I'm going to make this happen. I found a school, started training, and then now I'm a wrestler.
Well, so I know you mentioned a second ago that you kind of looked at Becky Lynch and you liked her a little bit. Was there anybody else in your childhood that you watched that you really like identified with?
Yeah, I mean, I love Trish. But like when I was a kid, Mickie James. I wanted to be Mickie James. I was obsessed with Mickie James. Like when she beat Beth Phoenix, it was the best day of my life. Like I just love Mickie James so much. So she was definitely my childhood hero. And then I also really loved John Cena and Jeff Hardy. They were kind of like my my guys that I loved. But yeah, Mickie James from my childhood for sure.
So now I have to ask about Jeff Hardy. Do you like Jeff Hardy that was WWE Team Extreme, or do you like Willow Jeff Hardy more?
Do I have to pick?
It's a hard question.
I mean, yeah, it's hard to pick because like with Jeff Hardy, the thing I think a lot of people gravitate towards is just this like energy that he has, and I don't really feel like you can learn that. I think you can learn from it, but you can never create what he has. Like you know, I think maybe as a kid it was the colorful face paint, and I actually hated the flips as a kid. It used to give me anxiety. Yeah, like I used to, when he would go up to do Swanton Bomb and he would always lose. That's how he would end up losing, because they would move or they'd cheat. So as a kid, I was like, no, pin him now. Don't do this. You're gonna lose. Yeah. But I think it was just like he dances and his music and his face paint. As a kid, that really, kind of I liked, but also I loved Lita and Matt Hardy and Jeff together. They were just cool. Like you wanted to be them. So it's really hard to pick. I just love Jeff Hardy.
So now, where did you train?
So I've trained at a bunch of different places, but I mainly train in London. And like the first school I went to was in Brixton. And like, I mean, I don't know how much you know about like geography in the UK. I mean, I don't know very much about geography in the UK. I'm terrible. So it's all in London, and I live just outside of London. And so like, I had to get like the tube and everything in, and I got so lost trying to find the school my first day. And then the actual school itself was like really like hidden too. And I was the only girl there, which I kind of had a feeling, and I don't really care. But like I was the only girl there, and I just remember going in, there was so many people. But yeah, I trained in London a lot, and then now I train at a lot of different places because I think it's really important to kind of learn from lots of different people and to train with different people too, because different people, obviously based on where they live, they'll train at different schools. So it's cool to be able to train with these people, and then if you wrestle them on a show, you've worked with them. So
now when you started doing shows and getting bookings, was that something that was through your gym or your multiple gyms, or did you have to go out yourself and kind of find those?
I just went out myself. Like I trained for a long time. For me, like I just wanted to do more. Like I was working so hard. I wanted to train at other places. I wanted to work on shows. I wanted to help out at shows. And so like I asked a couple of veterans. I asked them for advice. I was like, what do I do? And they were like, just put your stuff together in like a Dropbox, a CV, and just email people. So I made like this really like detailed Dropbox with like my promo pictures, promos that I recorded, a bit about me, some of my matches. And I just emailed loads of people. Like I would research the promotion to make sure that it was a fit. And I would talk a bit about like their shows and like what I think I could bring to their shows. And I emailed loads of people. And then, it worked out because, you got a lot of silence or a lot of no's. Then you also got a lot of yeses. So the beginning of 2020, the first 3 months, I was booked every single weekend because I put myself out there, I put all this work into my emails, and you just have to kind of just contact people and ask to help out or be on the show. And from that, I was busy every weekend and just getting myself out there.
So I went back and I watched a few matches of yours, and I noticed that your theme song was an Ariana Grande song. What made you choose that as your entrance?
So originally it wasn't Ariana Grande. Someone else picked it for me, and it was The Offspring, which was great song. They have great songs, but it's not me. It's like I'm here, like it's just not. It doesn't suit me. And I remember I got to a point a couple matches in where like we just spoke about I wanted to wrestle more. I wanted to be out in the wrestling world more and be learning and working. And I felt like at the start of my career I was really made to suppress who I was. Like I love Pink, love Ariana Grande, I love the pop song, I love the bubbly fun side of it. And that's really my energy, and that suits my character. But I was really made to suppress a lot of that, and they're like, because no one is like that. And I'm like, well, if no one else is like that, I want to be that, and that is me. And I feel like wrestling, Seth Rollins said this, it's like you take your bad traits or your good traits and you make them larger than life. And so obviously I'm the good guy, I'm the baby face. So for me, it was about taking these parts of myself and making them larger than life. And if I do stick out like a sore thumb, then that's only going to play to my benefit, and I'm not going to change who I am and what I love, because that's got me to this point. Like I'm a childhood wrestling fan, even though I don't look like that. I don't know what a wrestling fan is supposed to look like, but apparently I don't look like one. And I'm like, good, well, let me go out there and shatter people's perceptions. That's what I've done my entire career. I work really hard. Like just because I come out to Ariana Grande and I wear pink doesn't mean I'm not going to kick your ass. I will. So for me, it's just, the reason I chose it was because I felt like the lyrics of the song were really fitting to me. I felt like the vibe and the beat of the song, that's what's really important. That's what people resonate with. And it always goes down such a treat at shows, and I just feel like it suits me, and it's different. No one else has it.
Yeah. So now, is there a specific wrestler that you emulate your style on, or is it kind of a mix between a few different people?
It's definitely a mix. So like, I'm about, not counting the pandemic, I'm about 2 years into my career, and for me, I'm still so new and I'm still learning things. And when you learn under different people, the styles are different, and you know what they teach you from right and wrong is different for everyone, because it's very subjective sometimes. And like for me, I'm 5'8", so I'm pretty tall for a girl, especially here. But then I'm very agile, I'm very flexible, so I could do a lot of the high flying stuff. And so it's really for me about like, you know, do I do power stuff? Do I do high flying? Do I do a mix? And me, I've been trying to figure out like how I can make my moveset and my style kind of play to my strengths, play to my height, play to my flexibility. And so my style is not particularly based off of one person, but I do definitely look to Trish and Mickey. Just, it's not the moves they do, it's the way they do them. And it's the stuff in between, like they're on all the time, and they just have something about them in the ring, their style, they're just, their energy, I really feel it through the screen. So for me, that's what I'm trying to channel. And in terms of my specific moveset, it's really a mix. There's a few high flying things, a few power moves. I'm trying to just be good at everything, really, because you want to be good at tech, you want to be good at all the different styles. So I'm just trying to be a sponge and just be open to learning everything, and then kind of use this time to figure out what suits me.
Have you decided on a finisher that you want to be yours?
So right now I'm using the TKO. So you kind of have my shoulders and then do the cutter. But I call it the MMKO because, you know, Mariah May. So that's the finisher that I'm using right now. And then the submission I use is called the thirst trap, and it's the octopus stretch. So I kind of like wrap them up. So they're the finishers I use right now. Again, I'm so early into my career, so as you do more shows, you might find something else that fits you better. And you have to see how the crowd reacts to these things and what they go for and what they don't. But right now, that's my finisher.
Well, so we mentioned COVID a little bit. Let's get into that. How did COVID affect you specifically in the business?
Well, I mean, it kind of just took my dreams from me for a bit, because I was meant to wrestle internationally. I was booked every single weekend, and I was at a really pivotal point in my career where I was just getting to that next level and like really learning how to work. And like, you learn from experience. That's really how you get to that next step, is just doing shows all the time. And so I had all these bookings, and I was meant to go international, and I was starting to vlog my wrestling. So I put that all on my YouTube channel, and that was getting a lot of traction, just like sharing what it's like to be an independent wrestler, to be a British women's wrestler. And yeah, like with COVID, I kind of lost all of that. And like, you know, it will be there. Like, I've got some of those bookings back now, and the international ones, hopefully when everything's safe, they said they would like me to come still. So they were kind of postponed, not cancelled. And I guess I just had to think, you know, there's far worse things to be upset about than, you know, you're very lucky to have your health and your family. And so like, just in terms of my career, it was frustrating for things to be put on hold, but I was just looking for ways to still grow and to still kind of make my brand. And like with wrestling, you're a wrestler, but you're also a business. So for me, I was like, how can I build my brand, my empire? So I started Twitch, I put more time into YouTube, and I built these platforms up over lockdown, because I was like, I'm not just going to sit here and do nothing. Like, I need to like keep going with this and keep this momentum going. So I just did a lot of stuff on my socials, trying to build my following. I still worked out really hard. I was practicing promos, just watching wrestling, just ready for when it comes back.
Yeah. So now you talk a little bit about the YouTube and using that. Do you think that helped you I mean, you built your following through that as well, but do you think that helped with your in-ring personality at all?
Definitely. Because like with YouTube, it takes confidence. You don't realize sometimes until you like get the camera out, because like I said, I did theater. I played some crazy characters. Like, you know, I've done it all really. And so I've been in front of people, and I've acted, and you'd think that I wouldn't get nervous. And then when I started trying to do YouTube, I was like, oh, I can't breathe. Like, why can't I breathe? Then obviously that goes away after a couple of videos.
Mhm.
But I think it really helps in two ways. It's helped just in sense of like being in front of a camera, your confidence, the way that you speak, you know, just you just get used to it, and that's really important with wrestling because you can get pulled to do a promo at any time. You can come out of a match
Mhm.
and they're like, promo, just before your match, we want a promo, you know, or just go out there and do one. So you have to be
Mhm.
able to talk, you have to be comfortable and confident. And then in terms of my character, like specifically, I think it's really helped because the glamour is, you know, my character, and that's all about embracing who you are. And I know we spoke earlier about how I was kind of, you know, made to suppress who I am and
Mhm.
what I loved, and the glamour is all about actually letting that shine and being yourself. And so I remember wanting to do YouTube for like a long time at school, and I didn't because I was scared of what other people would think.
Mhm.
And so for me, doing YouTube and doing Twitch and doing these things is all about just doing it for me and letting me out and letting me
Mhm.
shine.
So, I mean, besides going deep into that YouTube drive a little bit, are there any other hobbies that you gained throughout the pandemic?
Yes, I have been working on something, but it's like top secret, so I can't say
Okay.
anything. So that took up a lot of my time, and
Mhm.
then obviously just Twitch and YouTube and preparing for wrestling coming back. But I did start drawing again. That's something I used to do when I was
Mhm.
younger. So I did start drawing again, and I find it really like soothing. I guess because I'm
Mhm.
such a busy person, and then when I actually sit down and draw, I really like it, and I started reading a lot more, which I'm really happy about, and I really want to try to continue, even when life picks back up, because I'm a
Mhm.
podcast person, especially with being on the road. I just listen to podcasts,
Mhm.
which is it's not the same as reading, but it's kind of similar to get your information.
Yeah.
But I really want to try and make the habit of reading more.
Mhm. Well, what was your favorite book that you read during the pandemic?
So this is very fitting, actually. So Nikki and Brie actually released a book, The
Mhm.
Bella Twins, and it's all about. I thought it would just be about wrestling, but it's about like their entire life and the different struggles that they've been through. And I
Mhm.
honestly just so good. Like it was so inspiring to read, and it was also really nice to hear that the different struggles they have had, just because you can relate to it, and then you think if they've done what they've done and achieved what they've achieved. I mean, they're Hall of Famers now, and they've
Yeah.
built these amazing businesses, and they've been handed all this horrible stuff, and they've still overcame it. It just kind of gives you hope, and it makes you feel like nothing is impossible. And
Mhm.
I've also started reading the Game of Thrones series as well. It's a little bit different.
A little, yeah, just a little bit different.
Little bit of side road, but I love Game of Thrones, so I was like, you know what, maybe I need to read the books properly. And
Mhm.
so I'm getting into that, but they're very intense.
Yeah, I've been debating that one too, the Game of Thrones books, but that's a
Yeah,
long read.
it's a big task to take on,
Mhm.
but yeah.
Yeah. Well, we're getting out of the pandemic. I know that the UK, I believe y'all are letting up on your lockdown a little bit now. So now that you're coming out, what's on the horizon?
Whew. Wrestling, just kind of getting back to where I left off. I mean, I think, touch wood, I think this is it for us now. Like,
Mhm.
this is definitely our kind of rollout now to normality.
Mhm.
But as I said, just the gym. Like, I spent five hours in the gym this morning, just like stretching, doing yoga, just
Mhm.
doing my cardio, my conditioning, my weights, and just like getting into that mindset. And it's so good to be back. And I think a lot of wrestlers have that, where they're like, thank God the gym is back, because it's like your
Mhm.
sanctuary. And I think about wrestling in the gym. It's where I can think about different things I want to try. It just comes to me when I'm working out. So it's been great to be back in the gym. I'm actually this weekend going to train for 3 days.
Mhm.
Another worker has a ring that I'm renting out for 3 days, so I'm traveling to train for 3 days and finally get back into the ring. It's been over a year.
Oh wow.
And then yeah, just shows. I mean, I'm doing Rev Pro this year,
Mhm.
so that's going to be incredible. I can't wait to debut there. It's a big dream, so I'm very excited about that. And I've got some other
Mhm.
really cool bookings coming up that I think will be
Yeah.
announced soon. And yeah, I'm just ready to pick back up where I left off.
Well, congratulations on the Rev Pro dates.
Thank you.
Let's talk a little bit about opponents. So, are there any specific opponents that were your favorite to work with in the ring?
Yes, I mean, I've wrestled some great people. Definitely Nina Samuels. She
Mhm.
was my debut, and she was actually the last person I wrestled before lockdown.
Mm.
And I was never able to beat her in my whole career, and I finally beat her. And I felt like that was like my origin story completed.
Mhm.
And it was really cool to have my first match with her, and then have, I think it was like my 30 something match with her, because between those matches I could see how much I've grown and I've learned, and like we were able to do more, and just kind of seeing our story evolve. And I think especially at an independent level, to be able to have like a long running storyline is really cool. That we kind of created. So yeah, I really enjoyed working with her. And Monica Passari, she is just so cool. I actually got to wrestle her at All Star, and we did like tag matches all week, and then on the last day we got to have a singles match, and it was like a really big deal. They're like, you're getting the singles, and we just killed it. The crowd loved it so much, and it felt like a real step up for me. And I'm still so early on in my career. And so when you feel these step ups and you feel your confidence go up, and you're, you know, those in between moments kind of just blend, that's what it's about. And she really took me to that next level, and I just loved working her. I would wrestle her every day if I could.
Well, so besides Mickie James and Trish Stratus, who is the one wrestler that you really want to work with the most?
Oh, Sasha Banks. I think she's always been a dream match of mine. I know we spoke earlier about Becky Lynch, but actually, like when I was leaving school, I don't know what it's called in America. It's sixth form here. It's like when you're like 17, 18 here, like your last years of high school, I guess. I was watching wrestling. I really wanted to wrestle, and I just finished school. And this was kind of when Sasha and Charlotte were having these like amazing matches on the main roster. And there was something about Sasha that I just wanted to be that. Like I wanted to be at that level, and that's what really helped push me to actually pursue wrestling and like just go for it. I just wanted to have those matches. I wanted to wrestle her. I still want to wrestle her, and like since then we've seen how much she's grown, and she was the main event of WrestleMania, which was so well deserved. She killed it. So definitely Sasha Banks. So
you talked a little bit about your character in the ring. Do you prefer being a face or do you prefer being a heel?
Ooh. I prefer being a bad guy. I know that's so bad. Like I love my babyface character because I feel like it's very organic in the way that it grew and what it means and what it stands for. And you know, everyone loves the glamour, and you know, I like what it means. But when you flick the switch and you make the glamour evil, and I don't want to say too much because if it does happen down the line, I don't want to give away too many secrets. But the bad guy glamour would be so much fun to just the promos you could do, just the in-ring stuff. And I feel like when people see me, they're always like, oh yeah, I would have thought you were a bad guy. Like especially people who don't watch wrestling, they're like, oh, I would have thought you were like the mean one. And I'm like, I don't know how to take that. I don't know what that means, but like, yeah, I just thought you would be like the mean girl. But I have like some really unique ideas for it that I haven't really seen done before. So I think I would prefer being a heel. I've only ever been a heel once. And it was so fun. So I think I would prefer it, but I'm happy being a babyface right now and learning, because I think it's the best way to just kind of learn and figure everything out.
Mariah, thank you so much for being on. It was a pleasure.
Thank you so much for having me. I had so much fun. So you can follow me on socials on Mariah May X. I am on Twitter, Instagram, TikTok, Facebook, YouTube, Twitch, and you can grab my merch at mariahmay.bigcartel.com or prowrestlingtees.com/Mariah May.
All right. Thank you guys for joining us on this edition of Unpopular Review Interviews with Mariah May.
So thank you so much for having me. I really appreciate it.
Thank you for being on.